Hey, welcome back to another episode of The High Ticket Woman. Today I have Melissa Armstrong with me. Melissa has had a pretty chaotic and traumatic childhood. It was marked by parental addiction and abuse. She's also survived a school shooting, and she witnessed her brother's tragic death at 18. And all of these unresolved traumas manifested into some pretty severe physical symptoms for her that led to ultimately her exploring alternative healing methods. So, over more than 20 years, she's transitioned from a career in nursing, she was an ICU nurse, to becoming a trauma informed functional health practitioner. And today, she now empowers women and their families to heal their mind, body, and spirit with the root cause healing through that mind body connection. So she does a lot of somatic work, nervous system regulation, lab testing, lifestyle changes, and nutrition, the whole gamut. She's very holistic in her approach. And her premise through everything she does is that healing is always possible. Melissa, welcome to the High Ticket Woman.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm really thrilled. We were going back and forth on some scheduling things, and I just kept thinking, I gotta keep trying to get her on. I gotta keep trying to get her on. Okay.
We made it happen.
I made it happen. Lizzie, you described a really, really difficult childhood marked by just unspeakable trauma. You know, everything from abuse to your parents' addiction to the school shooting to your brother's death. At what point, first of all, what did healing look like going through so much trauma?
Yeah. Well, I think healing, something that I tell people all the time is like healing is a journey. So I'm still on that journey, right? It's not a destination. Initially, when I first started my healing journey, when I recognized when I was 18 after my brother's death, I recognized how what I had been through was actually impacting my reality. Like after my brother died, I had severe anxiety, depression, panic. The panic was the worst part for me. I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and I struggled to even just like go to the grocery store because I was just panicking about everything. I couldn't sleep, well, if at all. And then that led to a host of, physical symptoms to the point where when I was in my early 20s, I was on 7 different prescription medications. And I was so unwell in like every sense of the word. Um, and yeah, so I realized that how my past was actually impacting my reality and how that was like affecting my mind and my body. And so the first step for me, I started actually meditating. I was one day when I was 23, 24, I was coming out of a panic attack, and my now husband, then boyfriend, told me that maybe if I could just try something to help me like calm my mind down, that I would probably feel a whole lot better. And he had no experience with, any woo or any like meditation or anything. He just was reflecting back what he saw, and we were young and he had no idea what he was dealing with. And, but for some reason, he reflected that back to me and he asked me like, can like maybe you should start meditating.
Mm.
And knowing what I know now, like meditation is not really ever the first thing that I recommend for people, but it worked for me for some reason. And I finally felt a sense of calm inside of my mind that I had never felt in, the 24 years I had already lived. Um, and from there, it just kind of evolved into like my pursuit of that feeling and understanding how my mind and my body were connected and how all of that trauma was like stored inside of my body and how I needed to release it so I could move forward without it controlling me.
So meditation was you kind of just sort of stumbled on
Yeah,
a
quite literally. Yeah.
yeah, I imagine though it was still quite a journey for you to
Oh yeah.
from pain to ultimate purpose. What looking back on your childhood and everything you went through, was there one thing that was the most traumatic for you? And is that something that you're open to talking about?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think, uh, they were I mean, like, all of the big events that happened in my life were very, like, significant and difficult, in their own way. I would say definitely, when I was 15 was when the school shooting happened. That was super traumatic, and that's, I think, where things got, like, exponentially worse for me. And then witnessing my brother's death just 3 years later when I was 18 was, I mean, probably yeah. Certainly, like, the most difficult piece.
Yeah, and, so many people coming out of something like that, it it's so incredibly damaging to your psyche, and
Yeah.
it affects every relationship that you have, including the one that you have with yourself. I'm shocked and amazed that you found your future husband at such a young age,
Yeah, we met
and
when I was 16.
yeah, and d does that surprise you that you were
Yes.
able to find the healthy person for you?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very unusual
Yeah.
to I'm gonna be 40 in a couple of months, so we've been together longer than we haven't. And I think it's very unusual, like, in the best of circumstances to find your partner when you're 16 and stay together. And yeah, he's literally like I attribute a lot of my healing and, like, the progress that I've made to the fact that I, like, found such an amazing man, because I think, if I would when I was 16, if I would have found a man like my father, I really do think that I would have, like, married anybody at that point. Like, I just wanted to be loved so desperately. Um, if it would have been somebody like my father, I would live a very different life right now.
Yeah, for sure. God had to have had a hand in that.
Oh, for sure. It was 100% Jesus.
So, you talk about a faith-led but science-backed, nervous system-based approach. So tell us more about that, your approach to healing.
Yeah, so I think the nervous system is like, hands down, the most important system in the body. Your central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. It's the control center for everything, right? Like, your brain controls everything. It tells your heart when to beat, your arm when to move, all of that thing, all of everything that you do. All of your nerves come out of your spinal cord and they innervate every cell, tissue, and organ in your whole entire body. So your nervous system quite literally is the control center. When you have, like, trauma and chronic stress and everything, you get into these maladaptive, nervous system responses or trauma responses that actually create inflammation and chaos inside of your body and make your body think that maybe you're in some sort of, like, dangerous situation, because our nervous system's sole purpose is, well, not sole purpose, but one of the biggest purposes, um purposes of the nervous system is to keep you alive. And so if you're sensing that there's danger when there's not actually danger, it actually becomes this maladaptive response. And you have a physiological response inside of your body whenever you're in that, like, fight or flight state. Most people know that term, fight or flight. That's your nervous system. That's your sympathetic nervous system. And if you're feeling that sympathetic response when, like, as if there was a tiger in the room when you're just, like, checking your email or driving in traffic, you can understand how that could possibly be maladaptive, because then you get these, a surge of stress hormones and adrenaline and all of that. And if that happens over and over and over, like, all day, every day, your body actually doesn't know how to respond, like, um, relax. And the the what I believe is that the nervous system is the most important system. And the way that you achieve nervous system regulation, which is the ability to be able to come in and out of fight or flight when appropriate and necessary, right? Like, we want it to work. if there's truly a tiger in the room, but it's when there's not a tiger in the room that's the problem. But the ability to come in and out of that system and go into that rest, digest, heal state, which is your parasympathetic, that's nervous system regulation. The way you achieve nervous system regulation in its most simplest form is through mind body connection. So recognizing your thoughts, recognizing how you're feeling physically, and then acknowledging that, just witnessing it a lot of times is super, super powerful. And the bridge between the mind and the body is the breath.
Mm.
Quite simply, like, it's the breath. If you just slow down and breathe, you instantly can actually sense what's going on inside of your body. But so much of our day-to-day, life is just like all this angst and go, go, go. And we live in this technological revolution where we are inundated by stimuli all the time up until the moment that we close our eyes. And as soon as we open our eyes, it's back again. There's no real like calm and um, rest state. Um, and I believe that it's on that bridge when we're using our breath. I believe that it's on that bridge where we have a relationship with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I think that that's where you can hear from, some people might call it the universe or your gut, or I think it's God. I think it's the Holy Spirit. You feel connection to a higher, being than yourself. Um, and that's really the approach that I take with all of my clients, is helping them bridge or like reestablish that connection between the mind and the body and start recognizing their thoughts and feelings. Once we acknowledge it, once we become aware of it, that's where we have the agency to change it. And that's when you can start realizing like, oh wow, what I'm thinking and what I'm, you know, exposed to, like that's actually creating like physical sensations inside of my body that are actually not serving me and not creating the life that I want. And if I can change that, then I can change everything.
Yeah, what you're saying is so key. The tricky part is, um, creating that awareness, right? Like stopping and slowing down enough
Yeah.
on in our busy life to attend to those thoughts. And sometimes people will say to me, like, I need a tool that's not just about breathing, and I think you've missed the whole point. Breathing is such a key tool. But it seems too simple to people. Do you ever hear that from people?
All the time.
Yeah. What kinds of things are they saying to you about breathing?
Yeah, and there's no way that that's gonna help me, or, like, I need something more than that, or, like, I even think it myself sometimes, like, "Is it really this simple?" Like yes, it really is just that simple.
Well, so tell me if I'm wrong about this, but your brain goes from a different part. What's activated when this sympathetic nervous system is activated, that part of the brain, it switches to a different part of the brain when you start to be mindful
Yeah,
of your breathing, because
yeah,
you're consciously focusing on your breathing, whether you're counting, holding in, counting in, holding, counting out, whatever pattern of breathing you do, you're activating a different part of your brain. Is that correct?
yeah, and you're activating your vagus nerve, which is your 10th cranial nerve, which runs from the base of your brain, so it's the longest nerve in your body. It runs from the base of your, brain in your brainstem all the way down your neck, through your chest, and into your, intestines, and when you activate that vagus nerve is actually responsible for that parasympathetic nervous system state. It activates, like directly activates your parasympathetic nervous system, and you activate that vagus nerve by breathing.
So you said earlier that you wouldn't recommend meditation as the first step now. Is breathing the first step that you recommend?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, meditation is just kind of I mean, it can be a first step, like, it's not gonna hurt you. It's just really hard. And a lot of people can't go from, like, this completely unaware state in this, like, fight or flight response for the last, like, years or decades to, like, sitting cross-legged on the floor, like, just being still and quiet. Like, it's very difficult to make that transition, so I feel like you need, like, stepping stones. Um, and the breath is the first thing.
Yeah. Can you walk us through, like, a specific time when your own mindful breathing helped, like, a specific time when it helped you regulate your nervous system in a traumatic moment or a perceived traumatic moment?
Yeah, I mean, like, I use it every day, and I'm a parent, and I have young kids, so, like, I use my breathing every single day. So it's
Just
trauma.
breathe, Melissa, just breathe. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. So trauma is not the event itself, but it's actually what happens inside of your body as a result of some event. And when you have like highly emotional events that you're trying to process alone, that is the landscape in which trauma occurs. So I can't think back to a specifically like traumatic event in my recent years. Like, praise God, I haven't actually experienced any trauma since my brother's death. Well, I mean, I guess I have, but yeah, like childbirth is pretty traumatic and COVID was pretty traumatic and there were some other things, but like I'd say I use that all the time just in like day-to-day life, just in parenting, right? So like I have little kids, they have two little boys, they're 5 and 9. They're boys, so they're like wild, like 100% of the time. And me and my own nervous system is very um sensitive to like stimuli. So I get very um like I feel myself kind of getting like more and more heightened as there's a lot of noise, a lot of movement. And so I remind myself 1,000 times a day to breathe and to just like drop into my body, I call it. So like if I feel myself, I'm keenly aware of how I feel physically and the thoughts that are going through my head. Sometimes I'll notice the thought first, sometimes I'll notice the physical sensation first, but whatever comes first, I always ask myself what's going on. So, like, if I feel a physical sensation of like anxiety or frustration, or, I feel my body getting more and more tense, I can almost immediately I can recognize that. And then I ask myself, okay, where is this coming from? Oh, it's coming from the noise. It's coming, like maybe the music's on and my kids are running around and playing, so they're like screaming and I hear their footsteps running and I'm trying to cook dinner and I have my headphone in so I'm listening, like this is like what we do, right? So then all if once I realize that, I'm like, okay, now I know I can change it. So I'm like instantly remind myself to breathe and then I start changing the things that I can, right? So maybe I'll say to my kids like, "Hey, can you guys go into your playroom?" I'll turn off the music. I'll take my iPad, my AirPod out. I'll do something to help decrease that stimuli and then allow myself to just sit there for a second and breathe, and I'll feel my nervous system come down out of that like, heightened state.
You said something that I want you to repeat. You said that trauma isn't about the event, it's about how I think you said the body processes the event. Can you speak
Yeah.
just a little bit more to that?
Yeah, trauma is not the event itself, but it's how your body it's what happens inside of your body as a result of that event. That's a quote from Gabor Mate. You know, and if you experience a highly emotional situation, a highly emotional event, and you're processing that in aloneness by yourself, that's why kids are so easily traumatized in situations because if for instance like child abuse or like some tragic natural disaster or something, like if their parents are also dealing with that, a lot of times it's hard for parents to be super present with the child and help the child process through the emotion. So, processing through something highly emotional in aloneness, that's the landscape in which trauma occurs. That's where it's created. High emotionality, aloneness, and an event that creates that emotionality. Um, that's where it occurs.
So does this explain then why 2 people can go through the same event and one person seems not not really traumatized by it at all, and the other person seems completely devastated?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think sometimes we can minimize the trauma that somebody else experiences because we perceive that the way we would handle that situation is is different, and so then we can minimize what someone else has experienced. Have you seen that?
100%. Yeah, and I think that a lot like, we're learning more and more about trauma and its impact on the human psyche and, our our nervous system and all of that, and I think one thing that I personally have, like, my little soapbox for a second, if that's okay, is, like, when we talk about trauma, a lot of research has gone into, like, talking about big T and little t trauma, and I think that's another way that we really discredit people's experiences. Like, I hate that differentiation, big T, little t trauma, because I think that it does exactly what you're saying. It invalidates some people's experiences while glorifying others. I hear that a lot about my own story is like, "Well, my story is not as bad as your story." It's like, "No, no, no, no. Your story is your story. My story is my story. I share my story because I think it's one of hope and empowerment. I don't share it because I'm trying to, get sympathy or that mine's better or more or, like I have every right to feel a certain way.
Mine big T, yours, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's like my experience is my experience and your experience is your experience. And how we respond to a certain event is so personal and depends on so many different factors that it's impossible to compare. It's comparing apples to oranges. It's we're all different and we all experience life differently. And some things that are traumatic for some people may not be traumatic for other people. And that's just, and we might not ever understand fully why, if it's somebody in our close in our circle or something, it's like you might not ever understand why they were traumatized by that event. You might not ever fully understand it. I think the point is just allow them to move through their own journey and experience what they need to experience. The emotions that come along with these events, like emotion is energy in motion. Emotion, energy in motion. That's what it is. It's like energy that we need to get out of our body, and it's almost more like re-traumatizing if you aren't allowed to, like, process that energy, if you just have to stuff it down or pretend it never happened to make somebody else comfortable.
Wow, this is important stuff that you're talking about, and I'm gonna use it with my clients. As a former ICU nurse, something you came out of that and you decided to move towards being this, trauma-informed functional health coach. Was there, like, a turning point for you that moved you out of traditional medicine?
Yeah. Yes, there was one specific situation that really, like, solidified it for me. So, I got into nursing in 2010, and I worked, um, in the ICU, in the pediatric ICU, which was, a whole 'nother story, but, like, probably not the best situation for me and my own nervous system, like, knowing what I know now. But I didn't know that then, and, I enjoyed the work in a lot of ways, but I never felt aligned with that system. And so I moved on and moved into other types of nursing, and I kind of never felt like I was doing what I was called to do, which was quite frustrating and confusing for me because I had spent, the better part of my adult life trying to get to that place, I wanted to be a nurse. After my brother died, that's what I was going to do. Um, and then when I was working, I ended up in an outpatient, um, like primary care clinic. And I had a patient. I worked in a very autonomous role where I had my own schedule. I saw 22 patients a day, and I would treat them per protocol. So like cough, cold, sore throat, UTI. I did a lot of like patient education. So we saw a lot of like new onset diabetes where we would teach them how to use their insulin or how to administer insulin, various things like that. And what happened is I had a patient on my schedule who came in for, as a new onset diabetic, came in for insulin teaching. So he was trying to learn how to administer himself insulin. So he brings, the insulin and the syringes and all of his supplies to me, and the appointment is 30 minutes, and I'm to teach him how to administer that, right? And in the conversation and like in the protocol that we had, like one of the things that we have to do is make sure that they have a consult with a dietitian, because as you know, I'm sure that like diabetes is directly related to diet and lifestyle, right? So it's important to know what you're eating because you have to count carbs so you can administer the proper amount of insulin. And that's what I was teaching him. And when I asked him, did you get, because he came in as he had been in the emergency room over the weekend. So the way it worked is like some of what we was in the system I couldn't see. So I just asked him, "Did they give you a dietitian consult?" And he looked at me like, "No. Why would I get a dietitian consult? Like I'm here for insulin." And I was like, "Yeah, well, but the dietitian consult so you know like how much to administer to yourself based on the carbs that you're eating." And he's like, "What does the carbs that I'm eating have to do with my," and I was like shocked and flabbergasted that he said that. And I was like, "Okay, that's okay." And then I'm walked, eventually like I taught him like just how to draw up this, insulin and everything, walked out of the room, had a conversation with my chief, um, the chief doctor in charge that day. And I said, this guy doesn't, I need more time with this guy. Like I can't, how do I teach him? Like he doesn't even know what carbs are. Like I'm not going to educate him for 10 hours, but like I can't teach him how to administer insulin without him knowing what carbs are and like why this is related. And that doctor told me, "Nope, you're going to teach him how to draw up the insulin, how to put it in his belly, and then you're going to put in the dietitian consult. We don't have time for that." And I was so angry and just blown away. And I was like, this doesn't work for me. And that was the moment that I knew that I couldn't do it any longer. And that was like 2019. And so I started pursuing, like Googling, like what else can I do? Like I want to work in like a holistic clinic. I want to focus on like diet and lifestyle and um non-pharmaceutical means. I don't align with personally or professionally with the chemical carousel. I don't believe in giving somebody a pill for every ill. I don't think that's the key to health. I don't think that makes anybody healthier. I think it makes people more sick. And so that's how I just found like holistic nursing certification, and I started Googling that, like, what can I do with that? And then it was an evolution, but here I am.
Wow. So it was really just these sort of, if we could call them gaps in the
Oh,
medical,
yeah.
how they educate people and how they treat problems that really shaped what you do now.
100%. Yeah, and I believe in the medical system, just for clarity, like, I believe in ICUs, ORs, ERs, penicillin when you need it. Like, I think those are all super important pieces. I just don't think that that system is designed to actually help people be well and stay well. If you want a pill or a quick fix, like, it's not actually going to fix anything. Like, no, there's no prescription on the planet that actually cures a disease. None. Like, there's no prescription that cures diabetes. There's no prescription that cures heart disease. All it does is mitigate the symptoms, but you can actually cure diabetes with diet and lifestyle. You can cure it. That's the only cure, is diet and lifestyle.
Both types.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Type 1, people that's a controversial topic. People will say that it's not curable by diet and lifestyle. I personally disagree. I've seen a lot of I've never experienced it personally. Like, I obviously don't have type 1, but I've seen a lot of research that suggests that it is in fact curable.
Don't you find, though, that the challenge is that when it really comes down to it, there is a core group of people who just want a simple "give me the pill."
Oh, yeah.
I my diabetes can be cured. Oh, but I have to work really hard at this, and I have
Yeah.
to make a lot of lifestyle changes, so I can just have this pill, and it'll help me feel better, and I'll just live with this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I think, it's ingrained in our culture to just want the quick fix. And that's definitely like that's definitely a choice. And it's really about, like, I tell people, like, I ask people, first of all, like, how's that working for you? Because, like, if it's not working for you, that should be like a red flag, right? If it's working for you and that's the way you wanna live, like, that's your prerogative. I believe in informed consent. You can go and choose to just be on insulin for the rest of your life if that's what you want. But really, and then once I ask, "How's that working for you?" It's like, choose your hard. Having diabetes and having to administer insulin when you're eating, having to risk, like, end organ failure and losing your limbs, having a limb amputated, and being obese and having joint pain and all, like, that's hard. It's also hard to eat healthy and limit alcohol and manage your stress, and all it either way is hard. Choose your hard.
I like that, choose your hard, because 'cause you're right, either way, it's hard.
It's
It's
hard either way. Yep.
a myth to think that it's easy to live with
Yeah.
something serious.
It's not. You're kidding yourself if you think it's easy.
So, everything that you've gone through in your life has required some pretty key characteristics. I mean, faith for sure, resilience, perseverance, but I think also a lot of emotional intelligence. These things had to be foundational for you. And I imagine as you work with women, you're addressing these qualities with them. How do you do that? How do you bring women to see to take that path of, if you really want true wellness, if you really want true healing, you have to sacrifice the quick and the easy. Easy with, air quotes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not here to convince anybody. And that's, like, I let go of that, like, a long time ago. I think if it's for you, then you're gonna know that. If you're looking for alternative ways, then you're gonna be looking for alternative ways. I'm not here to convince anybody, because the work is really hard and you do have to sort of, like, die to yourself every day, right? And, like, recognize how you are standing in your own way, and also recognize, like, it's hard, and it's not a destination. It's a journey. It's really about getting women, like, the first thing that I ever talk to my clients about is, like, identity, and and mindset, and getting, like, that nervous system regulation, getting that nervous system to just come down a little bit. And then we work on like mindset and identity, because those are what we believe are about ourselves will never rise to the level of our dreams. Will always fall to the level of our belief. If you
Yes.
believe that you are capable and that you are worthy, you can achieve anything. If you truly believe that you are unworthy, that's going to be what's going to hold you back every single time.
So what role does forgiveness play in all of this then? Forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others?
Yeah, a big role. Because we're human and we're imperfect. We're messy, imperfect humans, like
Indeed.
all of us. So I think, yeah, learning to forgive yourself and forgive people who have hurt you is a big role. And we walk through a lot of that. Um, with my I work walk through a lot of that with my clients, learning to forgive, um, so that you can move forward, because forgiveness, I mean, this is an age old like quote, but like forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you.
Yeah. All that toxicity you're holding on inside your body. Is there a daily, like, anchor practice that you recommend for women who are just dealing with lots of chronic stress?
Yeah, breath work, just like breathing. So I say like set an alarm on your phone like 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And this isn't like, it doesn't have to be like a, 10, 15, 30-minute experience or practice, or this whole like everything's got to be in the right place and like I have to be sitting here. Like set an alarm on your phone, and when that alarm goes off, right then in that moment, don't just, oh, I'll do it in 5 minutes, because then you're going to forget or you're not going to come back to it. But right then in that moment, close your eyes if it's safe to do so. Don't do this while you're driving, and just take a few deep breaths, like 30 seconds. 30 to 60 seconds is all you need to help start bringing that like cortisol down, bringing that nervous system down, and allowing yourself to shift into that more parasympathetic rest, digest, and heal state. And it has to be a choice, like you have to choose yourself in moments. And I truly, truly believe that the best thing that you can do for your children and for everyone around you is to care for yourself first. Obviously, like if you have children, like small children, like their acute needs come first. Like if somebody has a poopy diaper or needs, breakfast, like you can't, hold on, honey, mommy needs to take care of herself first. Like obviously, like your responsibility is to care for that acute need. But absent any acute needs, you can take 30 seconds and breathe. They're going to be okay. I tell my kids a lot, like, because I mean, they're little, my 5-year-old's mom, mom, mom all the time. And I'm like, hold on, honey. Mommy needs a couple minutes. Okay. Whatever it is that you're going to ask about going outside or watch me jump on one leg or like what, it can wait for a second.
Yeah, I often say true self-care isn't self-indulgence, it's self-parenting, and so that sometimes just means taking that 30 seconds to reset so that you are in the best possible place to do the other responsibilities that you have. Let's switch to as we come to a close here, let's switch to just rapid fire mode really quickly. First word that comes to mind when I say healing.
Freedom.
First word that comes to mind when I say freedom.
Oh, interesting. Um, Peace.
And finally, miracle.
Jesus.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what's your current project and what's inspired it? And yeah, as we wrap up, I know you got something coming up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a 3-day mind body healing workshop coming up on August 18th. The sign up is on my website. If you go to holistic health by melissa.com and then click free workshop up at the top, you can sign up there. It's 3 days,
So
totally free, super good information. What's that?
18th through the 20th?
Yes.
Okay. What days of the week is that?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
And is it all day long or is it just
1 hour.
hour each day? Okay,
Yep.
cool. I might sign up for that, Melissa.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a lot of, like, nervous system regulation techniques, you know, get taking your thoughts captive, talking about the mind-body connection, all the good stuff.
Love that. Okay, cool. So we'll put all of that, the website and everything in the show notes. Melissa, this was so informative and I mean, you're speaking a lot of my language, so I really want to take your workshop because all of these tools are so useful even in what I do in helping people to, as you say, just emotionally regulate.
Yeah.
Critical. So
Yeah.
thanks. We could have gone on a whole lot longer than we have.
Yeah. It'd be easy.
So it's very, very informative, and I just wanna say to everybody, I think I think what's really key about what you're saying, Melissa, is that, healing is a journey, but it is our personal responsibility to start that journey and to stay on that journey and to take responsibility for our own healing. I think so much of the time, at least with the people I work with, we can get stuck in blame mode. And that's not something that I heard you ever say through any of the things you've gone through. You're not blaming anybody. Um, and maybe that's something that you had to work your way through. But
Yeah.
that's a big part of that healing journey is like, this happened. Now, what am I going to do with it? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my my parents, like, they, have their own trauma that they were dealing with that, it passed down many generations before it got to me. And obviously, like, they were not perfect, and um they did the best they could, in those situations, though, I think. Um so yeah, I don't really blame them. And I also know, I've been told a lot of times when I go on podcasts or share my story publicly or anything, a kind of natural, like, common response that I hear from people is like, "I'm so sorry. That's wow. Nobody should ever have to go through that. I can't believe you've overcome all of that." And and one time early last year when I was on a podcast, I had a host say that to me. "I'm so sorry." And I realized in that moment, I'm not sorry. And the reason is because I know for a fact that I had to go through all the things that I had to go through so that I could be in this position right now. Romans 8:28 is my favorite verse in the Bible, and it says God works all things for good for the good of those who love him. And I believe with every ounce of my body that I had to go through all of those things so that I could be in this position right now, which I think I'm actively living out the calling on my life. I think I'm here to share the message of hope, and, like, kind of my overarching message every time I speak is healing is always possible. It doesn't matter I don't care about the diagnosis, what the doctor said, what your past was like, what you're acting like now, how horrible you feel your life is. None of it matters. Healing is always possible, always.
I I 100% agree. Melissa, thank you so much. Everybody,
Yeah.
if any of this resonates with you, and I can't imagine that it isn't, uh, jump on Melissa's website. Go check out her website, sign up for her 3-day free workshop, and start your journey today. Because remember, healing takes intention, and you don't have to do it alone. I always say that every week, don't I? So, all right, that's it for today, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, to leave a review, and to pass this on with someone else that you know really, really needs that. So until next time, remember, you don't have to be perfect. I always say this every week now. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be teachable. We'll see you next week.